my mind. Give me some directions to get to you. To get to you, ain't gonna waste my time. I know that we got connection. I think about you. You're on my mind. On my mind. On my mind. Yeah, I'm going out of my mind. Out of my mind. Out of my mind, yeah. For you, my love. You drive me crazy, tell me what to do, what to do. I'm on my knees, yeah, I am begging you, begging you. I'll break the rules if it will get me to, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 5Fs to Love Network. It is 8 o'clock, so you know we are live. Tonight, it's 60 is the new 40. I know, like you're thinking, where's Gerald? Well, I'm introducing Gerald tonight because we have to do a disclaimer. Tonight, Gerald is going to talk about finance and relationships. And with this over 30 years of experience in the finance industry, it's very important that you understand that any information that he shares tonight is just simply recommendations and suggestions based on scenarios, and that these are not things that he's asking or telling you to do. These are just his recommendations and suggestions based on the scenarios. If you would like to speak with him directly, you can reach out to him through DM in any of his social media sites, and he'll be happy to assist you with any financial questions that you may have. So without further ado, let's bring in 60 to New 40 the host, Gerald Robinson. Gerald, how are you?
Good, Chris. How are you?
I'm outstanding. You know, I got to do that disclaimer on the nights that you talk about finances.
Oh, yes.
Because legally, my attorneys are like, we need to make clear that these are scenarios.
Exactly.
And just, recommendations. And we never want to put any of your licenses or what you do professionally in jeopardy. So thank you so much, because this is a major hot topic with a lot of people. We have high divorce rates right now.
Yes.
That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, people are dating across states. That's number two. Exactly. Number three, we're dating across races.
Yeah.
And we need to be clear. There's a lot happening, especially when you think about doing this and you're getting married after 50. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of conversation. So, you know me, I got to go in hot before we even go to our first commercial, because I think a lot of times people are so excited about the idea of being in love that they don't think about all the different things. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk through each one of my scenarios. Sure. And by the way, folks, these scenarios are a surprise to him, because I needed him to show how awesome he is by answering the questions right on the spot, right? Uh-oh. So this is really cool. Okay, so our first scenario is: a man over 45, divorced with 2 kids, marries a woman with 3 kids between middle school and high school age, never married, low credit score, and some savings. What do you think they should do?
Whoa, good question. All right. First of all, hopefully, if he's divorced, he's got himself together first and foremost before he decides to get back out there. A lot of times what happens, rebound is, I guess, the favorite terminology people actually use is, you got to be careful with the rebounding. Just don't go out there the first thing that looks at you and smiles because, the ex told you that you weren't anything, you weren't, worth, dirt. So again, somebody gives you attention, and next thing you know, you're jumping at them. So first and foremost,
I like that. I like that you went in with the relationship advice first, because I think a lot of times when people get into these marriages at 50 and over, you're going through a lot of rejection or something that you've gone through. I mean, think about it. For the most part, you've probably been married for maybe 20 plus years,
exactly.
Right? You got kids, may not, but you've been married 20 plus years. You're invested in that. And then all of a sudden it's gone kapooey, and you're thinking, okay, what's happening? Now, one of the things that I left out, because I know you're going to ask me, I didn't say how old the woman was. I said he was over 45 and divorced. I just, with 2 kids, and marries a woman with 3 kids. I never said how old she was, though.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because you got to be very careful and mindful of that too as well, because you get 45, 50, and 60 years old, and all of a sudden you get a little bit of attention from somebody that's maybe 20 years younger than you. Be very mindful and careful with that. That may be exciting initially, but there's a lot that comes along with that too as well.
Okay, so before we jump into the money, though, your thing is at 45 with 2 kids, you're divorced. As a man, you're saying he should have gone through some sort of counseling first?
Absolutely correct. He should go through some type of counseling. No
Okay.
doubt about it. Rather men or women, anyone goes through a divorce at that age, you really need to go through a little bit of counseling because you just stated 20 years, 20 you're married, 20, with
Great.
someone for 20
You
years.
got two kids out of it too.
Exactly. Also, a lot of times you actually were probably already out of the marriage before you
Hmm.
divorced, mentally. A lot
Yeah.
of times you're there emotionally. I mean, you've lost, excuse me, emotionally,
Mhm.
what, 10 years ago, 5 years
Mhm.
ago.
Yeah.
So you really need to pull some things together prior to decide you want to go
So,
into another next relationship.
so my next question, like I know you're getting ready to give me the breakdown of what they should do, but one of the things is because he's divorced, he's probably already split half of what he has with that divorce he's going through, or a large percentage, right? So he's
Uh,
like,
Not necessarily. It just depends on how the divorce ends.
okay, so now going to your financial thing. So you go
Right.
ahead
So
and
it
hit
just
them with.
depends on how the divorce ends and how
Okay.
how ugly the divorce gets. I mean, you guys could just split half and
Mhm.
walk away from that, and that's wonderful if that happens. And then most of the times, what happens is somebody's bitter. So you start using the kids and the finances. So your finances, a lot of times, people forget you had a life insurance policy. That X was on your life insurance policy. So be very mindful of that. Don't forget to switch that out.
Right.
Because I've seen a scenario, unfortunately, where they forgot to switch it out, end up getting involved with someone else, and guess what? The beneficiary was the ex-wife, and the ex-wife gets 100% of it. So those are the type of
Wow.
things you need to be. Those are the type of things you need to be mindful of, for a life insurance policy. Small accounts you may have had for the kids.
Mhm.
Both your names are on them. Do you want both names still on them? Because she may go wipe them out, or he may go wipe
Mhm.
them out. So I'm not going to also just blame the lady for doing something like that, but he might wipe them out for being bitter. So just be mindful. Those are the type of financial things. Me being in the industry for 30 years, I've seen just about everything. It's about every scenario there is. And they will take kids' accounts as well when they belong to the kids, just to get at you.
All right, so what you're saying is the person who got divorced, they need to make sure that before they get remarried, that all of their life insurance policies, all
Correct.
that information has been switched over. What about the 401k and the pension?
Well, because on those you put beneficiaries too as well. You have names on those, so chances are your spouse was connected to that as well. So you need to switch those up. Um,
Okay.
if you're probably 45, 50, 60 years old, you probably have an adult child. You can go ahead and switch it over to the child. Be mindful of the child, getting $100,000 or $200,000 too as well.
Mhm.
Be very careful of that. Also, leaving the kids at home. Be careful if you're leaving the kid at home, $500,000 home. Well, guess what? You're not sure if they're a responsible child. They sell the home because you may wanted to create a legacy, as far as that house is concerned, but the child has no attachment to it all. So those are the kind of things.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many things to think about when it comes to once you
So
split
what's
up.
the first thing that you would suggest? Because he has two kids, she has three kids. Again, I did mention her age,
Right,
but her kids are between middle school and high school. His kids, he's 45, they could be high school, college.
right,
You're not
true.
sure. So at this point, you got two people coming together and they're going to have five kids. What's the first thing you suggest that they should do?
Obviously, build a relationship with the kids first.
No,
Obviously.
no, no, financially.
Oh, financially, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Financially, I would not change anything initially. Personally, I wouldn't change
Mhm.
anything. She probably, and hopefully she has accounts or he has accounts for the kids,
Mhm.
already set up.
Yeah.
As you guys continue to start putting your finances together, because when you do get married, you should be bringing your finances together. So are you still continue to put money into a savings or, for those kids? So if you have a middle school kid or a high school kid, you're
Mhm.
looking to continue their education. So if you're putting funds away, that's going to be part of your family budget. That's a conversation you want to have initially, or you
Okay,
may not want
so
to, you may not want to do that. That's up to you.
okay, so I want to be clear. The first thing you're saying is that you want to make sure don't move too fast
That's
and
correct.
start putting everybody's name on different things.
That's correct.
But you do want to start taking account for assets that each of you have,
Correct.
right? But what about, so you're saying do get a savings account together?
Oh, so of course, you're coming together as a marriage.
You
Yeah,
get
you
a
want to have a
savings and
savings
checking
account.
account, but
Yeah,
not the 401k and the investments or anything
the
yet.
401k and
What
investments.
about houses?
I personally would not recommend that.
Hmm.
As far as houses are concerned, you can do that. I mean, if you both own a home, someone's going to have to make a decision on who's going to sell their home.
Okay.
Um, I personally wouldn't sell the home. You probably would go ahead and rent the home out. Why not? Why not rent the home out? There's some additional income coming in that way. So that way you still have the home within the family. It's still part of your assets. So
Okay.
it just depends if, a distance wise too as well, because if you're at a distance from each other, it may not be something that you want to, manage.
So Joe, you give him more because that's not even in this scenario.
Yeah.
Are you putting them at a distance?
Uh,
Are you putting them at a distance? Okay, so my thing is, because when you look at this, you're going to have potentially over the next 5 to 7 years, 5 kids going to college. So what is something that you would recommend to someone in that scenario, marrying somebody with 3 kids and they have 2 kids, and within 5 to 7 years, you're going to have like 5 kids in college?
Again, the scenario you gave me, you have a middle school and you have high school kids. Hopefully, both of you've already started putting money away. You're not going to be able to sock all this money away now for their college education. I mean, yes, you're going to start putting some away, but hopefully you started that in elementary school. So again, middle school, high school, you gave me that scenario. I mean, how much are you going to really be able to put away? As far as the average income, people are paying paycheck to paycheck as it is. So putting that additional money for additional 3 kids or an additional 2 kids, now a family, with 5 kids, that may be a little tough.
Okay.
So
where should they focus?
So first, again, you need to come together with your finances and to make some decisions on who's going to go to school, who's not going to go to school. I mean, again, there's going to be, you need to get some loans, some school loans, start working on that process. I mean, we want to help the kids out, but at the same time,
but you're very, very realistic at this point. Yeah.
But financial aid's out there too, as well.
Okay.
So yeah, you do want to assist, but again, your scenario again is, middle school and high school.
Right.
What are we looking at? Another 5 years for the middle school person to graduate, and then the next thing you know, they're in college. How much are you going to actually be able to save? Again, let's go back to the home. If they own the home, then maybe we do want to sell that home, and maybe we want to use that towards the college. So that would be a plus too as well. So again, we need to look at all the scenarios and put everything together, and then make that choice. Hopefully, if you are coming together in a marriage, you have no problem with doing that.
Okay, so I do need to ask you though, does it matter when a person has a low credit score? You're marrying somebody with a low credit score. How does that impact your buying power?
Oh, truly impacts it. I mean, that's a personal pet peeve of mine is the low credit score, because if you're 45, 50, 60 years old with a low credit score, shows that you're a little irresponsible. So we need to actually start working on that. You know what I mean? That's just real talk right there. So, if you're sitting with a 600 credit score, then there's some things out there that I need to take a look at and start.
So that's my question to you. What would you recommend to a person to do to increase their credit score at this, at whatever, like you're over 50, what are some of the things that you would recommend based on that scenario?
Start paying the debts off, and obviously start with the smallest thing first. Start with the smallest things. And, what I've seen, going through credit reports, they'll have a charge off, a simple charge off. I've had couples, come together and they've had $100 charge off. I mean, $100, really? Pay the $100 charge off. Your credit score is going to go, jump up immediately. You get that charge off taken care of. So get your charge off taken care of it, if that happens to be that scenario. Again, work on the smallest things first and then kind of grow from there. Real talk, for me personally, I'm not paying for a Victoria's Secret credit card. I'm not paying that off. I'm not coming in and paying your Victoria's Secret off. I'm not paying your Men's Warehouse. I'm not paying your Men's Warehouse credit card off. All right. That obviously that money went somewhere else.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if you are with somebody and this could be occurring, they are not paying off your purchases for the other lover. Basically, what Gerald is saying. Is that what you're saying, Gerald? You're not paying off the other lovers' purchases?
Real talk, same way. You wouldn't want me to do this. You wouldn't want to do that for me. So, and I wouldn't expect you to.
That's fair. Okay, folks, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to jump into scenario number 2. And we hope that each of these scenarios that we give you tonight are real world questions on real world lives. I mean, this is for real stuff that's happening. And I kind of plucked it from people I knew, by the way. So these are like legitimate people, things that's happening. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. We'll be right back to 60s to New 40 with Gerald Robinson.
My name is Christine Burkett, the inventor of the 5 F's to Love. This is a compatibility app. It's an app that gives you an opportunity to rate words that start with the letter F in chronological order of importance to you, to help you find your one true love, your soulmate, and the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So after you've taken the time to rate your F's in chronological order, you send a link to the person, you just met, or the person you've been dating for quite some time. Or maybe it's the person you've been married to for 30 to 40 to 50 years. And then you compare your top 5 F's to find out what things you have in common and things that you may perhaps need to work on. This is taking a simplistic perspective on how to find your one true love, your soulmate, the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And thank you for downloading the 5Fs app.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 5Fs to Love Network. We are watching 60s and New 40 with Gerald Robinson. So Gerald, I'm going to tell you, anyone just joining us, you may not know Gerald has over 30 years of banking experience. And so tonight we're giving him scenarios about different situations when you're getting married and you are like over 50, well, 45 to 50. And different things come into play, not just the love in a relationship, but finances play a huge role in that. So tonight he will be answering questions based on scenarios that he's given. Any answers or responses that he give, those are just recommendations based on those scenarios. And if you'd like to speak to him personally about any of your own personal finances, you can contact him through social media. Okay, so Gerald, after I've done that disclaimer, and I know my attorneys are clapping their hands right now.
Thank you.
About it. Thank you, and you're welcome. So we're going to go to scenario number 2. A man and a woman over 55, no children. A woman has a pension from her first marriage, $5,000 a month, owns a home, and has over $1 million in savings. What's your recommendation?
Ooh. Now she's
first,
receiving her ex's pension. You said she's receiving.
First, let me start with the love part. We're going to start with the relationship part.
Okay.
What's your recommendation for her in that situation as it relates to the relationship first?
Wow. She's no kids, 55, no kids at all.
Both of them.
Wow. That is a tough one. Love's definitely going to have to play a big part in this one.
No children, neither one of them.
No children at all.
Nope.
Woman has a pension from her first marriage. That's something, because what happens in my
study.
study.
Don't forget the love part. Let's talk about the relationship part. What's your recommendation? I know you're hungry to get into the finance, but I want to hear about that relationship. You're 60. What would you recommend to this chick?
That's a tough one, because again, love has to really come into a big part in play in this part, because again, you've been on your own and you've saved quite a bit of money. You've done well. I mean, you're talking about $1 million in your savings account. You work very hard. You're meeting someone brand spanking new. Then all of a sudden you're going to bring them into your life. I personally would not bring them and put them on that savings account.
Okay.
I would not put them on that savings account. If I did, they would be on there as a POD, payable on death. In the event that I would pass away, then it would actually pass it, but they would not get full access to that.
Okay.
I would not recommend doing that personally. Just the way times are nowadays, you really have to find a true person that you truly love. That you want to actually put them on an account like that. Also, you make the decision as far as getting married, because again, she's getting a $5,000 a month pension from her first marriage. She gets married again. A lot of pensions that goes away if you get married again.
Ding dong. So that's why that's a ding dong. Right, so sure. In that case, she's 55, never been married, no children. I mean, I hate to say this because our church people that's watching, but to me, that's a shacking. We shacking.
And again, and I'm not recommending it. Again, let's go. That's my disclosure. I'm not recommending that. But again, that's almost looks like that's a shacking. There's a few things to think about there. So again, there's 5,000.
And I'm with you. I don't think I would be willing to give up $5,000 a month, and I could be married to this guy for 2 years, and it's a wrap, right? Correct. And then I can't go back and get the $5,000.
And you can't go back and get the $5,000. Correct.
It's over. So to me,
the $5,000 is gone regardless.
Exactly.
So you got the $5,000 plus her income and your income coming in. Things are looking pretty good.
Wait a minute. She owns her own home, got $1 million in the bank. There's no more, she owns it. So that's the whole thing. There's a lot of dominoes. So to me, if I was her, I would be like, we're shacking.
God, I hate to make that type of recommendations because again, being a Christian guy that I am.
I know. Listen, you're talking to two Christian people, but I'm just saying. But let me just say this. I do say, go do your prenuptials in the church with the minister. Correct. But legally on paper, I don't think you should file a marriage certificate until maybe 5 years in or something, we good, then I would do it because then the $5,000 is not so important. But I'm just saying, just it could go south. That's all. It could go south.
I hear you, but at the same time, there's something, deep inside of me says, you know what, you're marrying that person. You're making the decision that you want to marry them and you want to be with them, or don't be with them at all. Either, make that decision that you're going to marry them, all or nothing, or just don't marry. It's as simple as that. Just don't marry and just date. Just simply, consider yourself dating them. Not even shacking up or any of those kind of things. Just simply date.
See, Gerald is doing the Christian approach. I'm doing Christian and I'm doing reality. I'm shacking. I don't want nobody else to have you. I'm selfish.
Right.
Okay,
no,
so
I hear you.
Christine, who's not in finance, who's in IT, is saying, I'm shacking. And we're going to live together. We're going to have our prenuptials at the church. I'm going to talk to the minister. This is what's happening. Louis left me this money. Now, if you tithes and offerings is coming out that 5K. So that's what we doing. We don't know Johnny going to be permanent.
If you're dating each other, then you're dating each other exclusively. Yeah. So I'm not saying dating other people.
Yeah, and that's it. We're dating exclusively.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. And I want people to understand, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but because of the high divorce rates, and you never know, neither one of you have ever been married, just out of safety, before you give up $5,000 a month, and in 2 years, because just to let you know, this happened in real life.
Oh, definitely. Oh, it's
the person got married, and not only they put the new person on their house, on all of their money.
Correct.
In 2 years, he made out like a fat rat.
Sure did. Exactly.
And she lost half of everything she had.
Because you have to remember, she's the one bringing that to the table. He's not. Because in your scenario, she's the one bringing all that into the table.
See, and that's the whole point. I want people to pay attention, because she ended up paying, what is that? Not alimony, but she had to pay him. Is it alimony?
Yep, that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, she paid him alimony because she made more money than him. See, I want people to pay attention.
Right.
I said they're both 55, but she owned the home. He didn't own a house. So he moved into a house that her first husband bought. She put his name on it.
He's not coming in equally. I mean, there's nothing equal with this. And so she really needs to think about herself. She needs to really think about the decision, she's going to make for, getting married, because again, she's bringing a lot to the table, and he's not bringing much to the table at all. So again, she needs to protect herself. And my recommendation would be for her to protect herself. Let me just say that.
Which leads into my next thing. So what's your will and trust recommendation would you make for someone with no children?
Well, are you talking about being in a relationship with someone? Because
again, we're talking about this situation.
Oh yeah. Here. He could be. Of course, if I'm going to marry, if we're going to be together that way, I don't have a problem putting him in the will. Because again, I mentioned to you before, POD, payable on death, he can be on an account, and if that's something were to happen to you, then that would happen. But he would not have access to those funds right now. Not at all.
But what about the whole thing of him moving into her first husband's house? Wouldn't there be something like he couldn't live there, like he would have to sell the house? Like, would you recommend that?
I do not recommend that. Now I'm taking that purpose, because again, he shouldn't be moving into her house. He shouldn't be moving into her house. I'm old school. It's the man thing for me. He needs to establish that house. He needs to establish a home on his own. And she needs to move into that home. Because again, as you stated, her home. And it's always going to be her home. It's always going to be considered her home. And you want to take that out of the equation. The relationship's already going to be tough enough as it is. Again, being at that age and established quite a few things, and you've been fairly independent, again, all of a sudden her home, something goes sour or whatever, a bad conversation, my home, get out of my home, and he's always going to have that feeling, and she's going to have that feeling. So let's put
You're saying start fresh.
Start fresh. That's what I'm basically saying. Start fresh. Okay.
I wish I could role play her. My house is already pimped out. I'm not moving.
but if you meet someone, chances are, Chris, you should meet someone that's on the same plane as you are.
You should, but you know what, Gerald? This just is this real world, and me and the ladies talk about this all the time. The odds of me being at the level that I'm at, meeting a black man, because I like black men. I just want to be clear. I do. That's my first choice. But I have dated outside of my race, so I'm not going to say that's my only choice. But my first choice is a black man. It's hard because it's 23 women in line for that man who is considered to be my equal. So as you know, and that's just the truth. So to me, it's not dating down or up. It's just me making choices about somebody loving me for me. And 9 times out of 10, this woman who's 55 said, I just want somebody that loves me. At this point, I'm 55. It's not about what you do. I'm probably 10 years out from retiring. This man really does love me.
Right.
So I don't care about how much money he makes. And I'm going to tell you, women in my situation, that's what they do. We focus on, at 52, I'll be 52 this year. I'm focused on the man loving me. That's it. I don't have any kids to take care of. My son is in college. He's on his own. So I'm focused on that. I'm making money. I don't need you to pay any of my bills. We're good. Let's do this right. Us right.
So basically, you're just coming together because of love. It has nothing to do with finance.
Exactly. But
if you could take finances out of it, because a lot of times finances always seems to be at the top of the list.
Well, I think finance is at the top of every relation. Most people get divorced over sex
and finance
and money.
Well, money because of mismanagement of the money. Because I know people that make $50,000 or $60,000 that are doing just fine.
Right, but it's always those two things.
What's that?
And so it's always either sex. They say incompatibility, and people can say it what they want it is. I don't think it's a conversation. I think once the sex life goes bad, then communication goes bad, or it's the one or the other, swap, and then you're done. But the thing is, a lot of women right now are in that scenario. So when you do a will or a trust and you don't have a kid, like, how does that work out? Again,
it depends. I mean, you have family members, you have, brothers and sisters, hopefully, I have brothers and sisters. I could leave it to those guys. If I didn't,
your nieces, stuff like that.
Grandkids, I have 5.
But she doesn't have any grandkids because she has no kids.
She has no kids. Right. So that's true. That's a good point. So that's a tough decision because again,
I know, I'm throwing some tough ones on you tonight.
You really are. That's a real tough one because again, if you're with that person again, they get it after the fact.
Okay.
They're not getting everything up front. They're getting it after the fact. So, enjoy your life together, enjoy your marriage together and your time together. And what happens after the fact is after the fact. But
so are you saying at 55, you fall in love, she shouldn't really be worried about the $5K. If she really loves the guy, marry him because she got $1 million in the savings. So $5K is really not a big deal when you look at a big picture, right?
Well, yes and no. What else? What income is she getting? She's not retired, right? She's still working.
She's still working.
So she's adding that $5K. And remember, he doesn't have a home. No. So chances are he's older and he doesn't have a home. He's not established. There's a problem there. Mm-hmm. That's just me personally. I think that there's a problem there. Why does he not have a home? He should own a home at that point in time. If he doesn't own a home, he may went through a divorce. He lost the home through marriage and all that. So now we got some baggage coming in here. See, now it's a deeper conversation because there's some additional baggage here. But based off the scenario, it sounds like there's some additional baggage here on his side because again, he's 55 or 50 or 60 years old and he doesn't own a home. He has no assets. Wait a minute, there's a bigger picture here.
All right, so ladies, you might want to ask more questions. We'll be right back after this commercial break so we can go back to 60s New 40 and ask Gerald about scenario number 3. Folks, these are hot and ready, real question scenarios. I'm giving them, and they're coming at them fresh. So basically, if you love them, you need to make sure that you really love them before you marry them so you don't lose that $5K and that pension, right, Gerald?
Right.
Okay. Gerald said it first. I'm saying it second. I would just shack up. I'm just keep it real with Gerald. Okay. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
I need it all. Do you want it though? Where do I begin? I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard the scammer had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call it my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. Been through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, it's not a purse, it's a merge. 6 figures was a goal, now it's 9 or a hearse. Put it work. Used to pull up, not swerve. No time for the snakes, trying to put them in the dirt. That's word. I gotta get it, it's in my DNA. You only see the highlights, don't know what it takes. Last year stressing, got no sleep. Now I'm right between the courts, out of nosebleeds. I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard these scammer had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call in my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. And through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, same circles to the same gang. We just get to it, we don't gang bang. Lost some friends to the same thing. Keep a low pro when we maintain. Find us in the lost.
Welcome back to the 5Fs to Love Network. We are on tonight with 60s to New 40 host Gerald Robinson, and tonight we're talking about relationships and finance. Any information shared this evening is based on recommendations and scenarios, and these are not personal advice that he's giving you that's related to finances. All right, so I've done my disclaimer, and my attorneys are now happy with me. Okay. I just want to say I'm getting really good at that. Like between you and the finance squad, like I'm getting really good at popping that out. Right? Okay. So listen, guys, I apologize. Before we get started, tomorrow you got the finance squad and they are live. The three guys are live. The finance squad is coming to you and they're talking about a budget. So Gerald, they're going in hard on that budget 101. And I know how you are about budget. So all I got to say is people, that's where you start before you start talking about investing. You got to start talking about where your money's at first. And the budget helps you identify where your money is. So I'm on it, but I'm watching it after I'm on it, just so I can make sure my money's right. And you guys already know it's Super Bowl Sunday. So Sunday, Dr. Shelley's show will be a replay that you can watch because we will all be watching the Super Bowl and it's also Sunday. Okay, so keep that in mind. So Joe, here we go with scenario number 3. A man 60 marries a 45-year-old with a son in college. A man is retiring in 5 years. Both are homeowners, savings, and investments. And if you like what we're saying, be sure on any social media site that you're watching, give us a thumbs up and let us know that you like this conversation. And also share it with all your friends and family. Okay, Gerald, so there you go. You had time to marinate. 60 marries a 45-year-old with a son in college. Man is retiring in 5 years. Both are homeowners with savings and investments.
60-45. Go, my man. Anyway. Anyway.
That's the first thing you're saying about the love life. Like, thumbs up on that. Yeah, really, Gerald? That's the first thing you say?
All right, you go, big fella. But anyway, with the he's already in college. So college, obviously, as far as being paid for, chances are she's probably put some money aside for that, as far as school is concerned. So you can take that out of the picture. Again, you know, he may come back home too as well. So that's a conversation you really need to have too as well. But I don't know if you want me to talk about the relationship part first or the finance part.
Oh, yeah. I always start off with the relationship. Relationship is way more important than the money.
Yeah, because the relationship part of it, I mean, if he doesn't have any kids, you know, so again, now he has a child, you know, even though the child's off to college. So now all of a sudden, and he has a grown child too at that.
Right.
I mean, he has a child that's off in college, so it's pretty much grown. So you're not really raising that child. You're pretty much a male influence in their life, you know, and that's how you have to pretty much look at that. You need to be a good male, you know, role model for that child. First and foremost, because you're not raising them. They're already pretty much raised. So you need to be a very good influence, you know, for that child. That's first and foremost. That's how I would actually tackle that.
What about the male-female relationship? Because there's 60 and 45. Are we getting ready to hit the fact that the sex needs to be hot right now? Because in like 5 years, it might go shaky.
It may and it may not be. That just depends. It's just something that they talk about in a relationship. You know, it may be hot from the beginning and it may not be. But something that she needs to realize that he's 60 years old too as well. You know, she's 45 years old. She may be hitting a prime or whatever. You know, he may be declining. You know, we talked about the health thing before too. You know, he may have the high blood pressure, you know, and sugar levels, and you know, he may have, you know, some issues as far as that is concerned. So that's a conversation, you know, they truly need to have, you know, right from the beginning. You know, right from the beginning, they should be having those conversations. She knows that possibility that, you know, some things may change.
Exactly.
So having that conversation up front, I think would help them, you know, in their marriage if that were to come up. So she wouldn't think that it's just him or her, excuse me. There's a problem with her and you're no longer excited about me and blase. But it's just the fact that, you know, I have some health issues. So if she's attentive to him, and guess what? She's taking him to the doctor. She's making those doctor's appointments and checking things out.
That's what I wanted you to say. Ladies, when you're with somebody who's older, you got to make sure that they're good to go.
Sure.
And there's a huge age difference. I know with my parents, there was 15 years difference.
Sure.
So that was huge. But looking at them, you couldn't tell. Those are my parents, by the way, everybody right there. Those are my people. But you really couldn't tell that there was a 15-year difference. My mother took excellent care of my dad. So that's a really big deal. So now we're looking at the finances. This feels like a sweet deal to me.
Well, it's a sweet deal for her.
I mean, because to me, that's what I'm speaking from the woman's perspective.
Right, it's a sweet deal for her. You know, 45, he's ready to retire. You know, in 5 years, he owns a home, you know, savings account, has investments or whatever. She's walking in a good situation. And me personally, you know, and she should. You know, that's his job. That's his responsibility.
They both. But both of them are homeowners. Both of them have savings and both of them have investments.
Oh, I'm reading it now. Sorry. Forgive me.
Yeah, both of them. That's a sweet deal.
I'm going to have to take a drink on this one.
So what would you recommend?
So again, the conversation, again, we're having some conversations about the home. You know, which home you want to actually stay in. Again, I like to keep the home if you can keep it for an investment. You know, so you want to keep that in there. Airbnb.
You can identify which home gets the highest price.
That's correct. What area? You know, all the look at all the situations. What area the home is in. You know, what's the best return we can get on an investment on keeping the home or selling the home. So that's a nice conversation that we need to have.
Well,
probably a tough one because again, you know, you establish your home. It's hard to give up on.
Well, I just want to say right now for me, I've already said when I do get married, I'm going to get a house with my husband. Like this house is my son's house. Like I'm going to have it. But a lot of women don't feel that way.
No, you're absolutely correct. And that's part of that conversation then, Chris, is that you know, you need to find that out and have that conversation. And if that conversation is going the wrong way, then you need to make the decision if you're going to marry that person.
So that's the whole thing. So when you talk about the relationship, even before we get into the money, both of them are homeowners, both of them have savings and investments. So this guy's retiring in 5 years.
Right.
Obviously, there's no kids in his situation. It's just her and her kid. So in that situation, would he then leave his money to her kid? He doesn't have any kids. How would that work?
He has nieces and nephews.
That's a possibility.
So
I'm just saying,
I hear what you're saying again, and it depends on how long they've been dating. You know, what type of relationship too as well. So we look at the bigger picture. They could have been dating 10 years. You know, so he could have 10 years with a relationship with that child. So it just depends. Once again, it's been 5 years. So he could have had a relationship with it. So if that's the case, then chances are he may end up leaving something, you know, to the child too as well. But why wouldn't he just leave it to her and she makes the decision? You know, just leave it to him as opposed to giving it directly to him.
That's what I wanted to hear you say. So basically, there's two things that I wanted to hear you say, which was if she's 45 and he's 60, he'll be retired in 5 years. He doesn't have any children, just leave everything to her and just let her make a decision on what happens. But again, like you said, if he has nieces and nephews or siblings, then that's a different situation. You definitely want to include them. But the main question, what I had, the follow-up question to you was, what would you recommend or decide, like which home to sell, rent or make as an Airbnb? Like, how do you decide that?
Yeah, again, I was just stating earlier, it depends on what area the home is in. Again, so you look at Airbnbs maybe in certain areas. If people are Airbnb already, then great. I happen to live near a beach area. Airbnb is wonderful here. I mean, that's a nice retirement money that's coming in. I mean, you have people, you know, paying $1,500 a week to, you know, to live in your home. You know, that's marvelous. And so it's a nice retirement money. It's not going to go anywhere. So that's a decision. Or if you happen to be in a city area where it's like, you know what, we really don't want to have to worry about hiring someone to manage the renting that property, just sell it and take that capital, and invest that another way. So those are the type of conversations you want to have, because every scenario is totally different. So, you live in the city or something. So do you want to do that? Like you said, you have your son, you're going to leave it to your son. So when you meet that man, buys a home, you're going to leave it to him. So it just depends on what what your situation is in that actual scenario.
So what would you suggest about insurance policies? Because I know you're really big on that.
Definitely.
What would be your recommendation on the type of insurance policies they should be looking at?
She should definitely be the beneficiary on the life insurance policy.
No, not that. What type of insurance they should be looking at?
Oh,
based on that scenario.
Wow, that's a good question. 60 years old and 45, right? That's the one?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, he should already have a life insurance policy. I would hope he would already have one. It's going to be quite expensive for him to get one at 60 years old, depending on what his health, conditions are. They both should already have a life insurance policy. So,
okay, but what does that look like? Like what type of policies?
Well, he probably has a whole life policy. He may have a whole life policy.
Okay, explain the difference between whole life and the other ones that's out there.
Well, you have a term policy, which is considered term. It's for a certain term, certain time frame. Whole life is a whole policy where you pick one premium payment, for the life of the policy, and it continues to build cash value over time. So you can actually borrow from that. That's getting into a whole nother situation. Hopefully, your finance guys get into that. You can borrow on that to purchase a home without being penalized. So again, it just depends. Hopefully, you have if you're going to get a new home, then hopefully you get a policy that's going to pay the home off. Guys decide to get together and do that. So, it depends on the scenario, what that person actually has prior. He's going to have retirement coming up. So again, hopefully he has a life insurance policy or something that goes with that. Disability. A lot of people always talk about life insurance. Guess what? Chances are you're going to become disabled before you die. Again, that's another industry that I was into as well. I sold life insurance. I sold, insurance, period. Disability, most people become disabled first. So you need to get disability.
And what's the other one they need to get?
Long-term care.
There you go. I was waiting.
That was coming, because it's definitely long-term care. A lot of people forget.
Because of the age difference, she should start banking up on that additional insurance, right?
Absolutely correct. And let me tell you real quick what's going to happen with long-term care. He owns a home, correct?
Yes.
He has to go into a nursing home. Guess what they're going to want? His assets.
So how should she manage that now?
So now all of a sudden, she needs to now liquidate those assets in order to pay for that, or she's going to actually have to have caregivers that are going to come into the house. And that's a whole nother conversation. I don't think we have enough time to really get into that.
So my question is, if they both have homes, and they do, and understanding he's about to retire, I'm going to ask you the question again before I ask you the trick question. Understanding that when you go into a facility, you have to start liquidating your assets. Would you recommend that he start liquidating his assets now as he's going into retirement and leave everything in her name?
Very good question, because I noticed it's 5 years. Start doing it now, because that's how far they're going to go back. They're going to go back those 5 years. I know you try to trick me, Chris. Trust me, I got 30 years in there. We got too much time in there for that one.
I know just enough about finances to trick you up.
No, you're not, because they're going to go back 5 years. So you need to start.
Exactly.
So they're going to check on 5 years. And
correct.
All your assets from 5 years, the nursing home, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know that, folks, already, start thinking about that. So again, she doesn't want to put him on her home either, because now that's another asset. So again, you decide to get married and do all that, keep all that separate. Separate all those things, because again, they're going to come out of every single asset you have. Vehicles, you name it, they're going to come after it. So be careful of all the things you actually own in the event that something were to happen. I'm not saying they're just going to get old and get sick and those things are going to happen, but that's when insurance, you just want to protect yourself in the event of, so again, they're going to go back 5 years. They're going to want all your bank statements from 5 years. I've seen companies go 3, but I have seen them go back just as far as 5 years.
So in that scenario with the Airbnb, your thing is don't do the Airbnb, but you need to just go ahead and liquidate his home, keep her home, or just buy a new home and put it in her name.
That's a judgment call, yes, but what if she gets sick?
Well, I mean, what I'm saying, either or, but and I get it. But she's 45, so it's more likely.
More likely, right? Exactly. But it's more likely for him. That's
yeah.
correct. That's correct.
All
More
right.
likely.
So basically, but you definitely have to protect yourself, guys, and that's the whole thing. Based on that scenario, you really need to kind of make sure you protect yourself and you're prepared. So this next one, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a doozy. Like, I was digging deep. I'm trying to trick you up.
All right, let me get ready.
So scenario number 4, woman is 58, divorced, homeowner, no mortgage, no kids, taking care of her parents, married a 60-year-old with 2 adult kids, 1 grandchild. This is his 3rd marriage, and both of them have savings, investments, and live 100 miles apart. Woo, that's a big one. Joe, would you like me to go to commercial break so you have time?
My first response is why? That's
why what? Why what? Get with who?
Why even get together? Period. But anyway, that's.
Oh my God! Because he's 60-year-old, he's got adult children. He's lonely. This is his 3rd marriage, though.
Right. Exactly. So, like, maybe you want to go. Maybe you want to go to a commercial break on this.
Yeah. Okay, listen.
I'm good. We're good.
Are you sure? Because I was like, anytime the host does a shout out on a commercial break, I'll do it. You know what, Joe? We're going to commercial break. You know why? Because it's the 5 F's to Love, and we have commercials. We'll be right back to give Joe time to marinate on his response. Joe, you got to talk about the love too, because remember, she's taking care of her parents.
I'll go to love first. Let's go there.
Go to love first, get some money. We'll be right back, guys, after this quick commercial break.
Look at me, I'm on. 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 Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Hold up. Yeah. I'm chasing a bag, I'm racing the clock. Look at them block, watching them flop. See this in my sleep. When I ain't had shit but my thoughts in the car, I really was lost. Now I'm public with the soundscapes. Niggas floss, I'm really pulling strings for the pound cake. I see you went for a puppet in the clown face for a little wage. That shit, the talk of the town is late. Still me, I never switch sides. Came a long way with the gas tank running on fumes.
Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going.
I gotta tell you something I could do. I could be running around chasing you, but I won't. Cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door.
Hey guys, welcome back to 5 F's to Love Network. Tonight you're watching 60s to New 40 with our host, Gerald Robinson. Tonight, if you're just tuning in, be sure to like and share this podcast with anyone in your family and also your friends. And any information that Gerald shares tonight are based on the recommendations for scenarios that we're giving him, because he has over 30 years of finance experience. So we're looking at it from his experience as a male in finance for over 30 years, and also 60 years of 60 years of relationships. We're gonna say 45 years of relationships, because the first 15 don't really count. You know, right. You're like a toddler. So I left him on a stumper, and I left him on a BIC situation, but it's actually a relevant situation that happens a lot out here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is the thing, because when you get to a certain age, you do become a caregiver for your parents. The woman is 58, divorced, a homeowner, no mortgage, no kids, taking care of her parents. She's marrying a guy who's 60 with 2 adult children and 1 grandchild. This is his 3rd marriage. They both have savings, investments, and they live 100 miles from one another. What's your recommendation from a relationship perspective?
Man, I mean, she's really taken on a lot. I mean, she's already taking care of her parents as it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a huge responsibility. I mean, obviously, because I've done it personally. So I
Mhm.
definitely know that's a challenge, within itself. Now all of a sudden you're going to bring a wife into that and kids as well, kids and grandkids into that. So, initially almost like, woof, what's love got to do with this?
You was like, what does love got to do with it?
Exactly, because this is a very tough one. I
Yeah.
I again make sure with the divorce, make sure
Mhm.
she's all settled and past the divorce, and I've already had some counseling, before she decides to get married. Because again, here we go with the loneliness part of it. I think we
Yeah.
talked about that on the first scenario. Is that make sure she's doing it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
not just because she's lonely and needs someone to help her, help her take care of the parents and the kids. So make sure the right.
Oh, she has no kids. He does.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. So make
He has
sure,
adult kids and 1
right,
grandkid.
make sure she don't, make sure, she's doing it for the right reasons.
Mhm.
Because again, she's, taking care of her parents. Now she becomes a mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she becomes a stepmom to 2 kids, but no, she becomes a grandmom is the big deal
Right.
at this point.
She becomes, right. She becomes all those things as well.
Mhm.
So again, that's asking a lot on his part too, as well, because all of a sudden, she's not had kids, and all of a sudden, you have kids and you're taking care of, your parents too as well. What attention are my kids going to get?
Mhm.
What's going to happen, because taking care of elderly parents, anything can come up at any time,
It does.
that can take you away from from the
Mhm.
kid. It can also take you away from the relationship. So
Correct.
you got to be very careful and very mindful of that, because
Mhm.
again, your commitment has been to your parents, because you're taking care of them. And then now you're going to take on a second commitment too as well, and that would be an actual husband, with kids and grandkids. That's a very tough situation and
And it
tough.
is, because when you get married, especially because it's her first marriage, you have to cultivate that
You
marriage.
have to actually cultivate the marriage. That's
And
correct.
it takes, and you got parents. So now you're looking at that flip. So that's a relationship, but from a finance perspective, what would be your recommendation based on this scenario?
What far as the finance is concerned, I mean, keep your savings, your investment, your investment.
Okay.
Person. I mean, I would not bring those things together. And I'm sorry, but you had the 3 divorces in there. So again, you really going to have to really trust that person, again, because if you do bring things together, again, 2 years from now, all of a sudden he's divorced again. Now it's a fourth. Now it's a fourth divorce. Now
Yeah, that'll be his fourth if they, yeah.
right. And now all of a sudden here we would, taking your money, and
Mhm.
also taking the time away from the kids, I mean, from your parents, excuse me, because again, she's taking care of her parents. So that's asking a lot. That's
But
quite,
so the other thing is they live 100 miles away from one another.
well, I
So of
mean,
course he must be moving in with her
I was about to,
because
that's what it sounds like, the
yeah,
chances are that, he's probably end up moving in with her. That goes
right.
to the scenario again, is that, why doesn't he own a home? Why doesn't he have that? But that's a whole nother.
Well, no, the thing is, it doesn't say whether he owns a home. But first, let me get your sister in because it's important. Your sister has put in. She says they can make it work, but wishes in writing. Be fair to each other. Show grace and respect to all involved. Right, Gerald?
Yep, absolutely correct, sir. I
I
mean,
like how she talked to you.
absolutely.
She talked to you like a sister, right, Gerald? Like,
Thanks, sis. You're absolutely correct. I mean, you want to
but
do.
wait a minute, but let's be clear. She talked to you like a big sister.
Yeah, she is.
I want to be clear about that too.
I'm the youngest brother, not the baby brother. He's
She
still
was
like,
like, right, girl? Like I'm telling you.
exactly.
Love it.
But he's going to step into it. I mean, obviously, he loves her enough to come, to marry her,
Right.
and then step into the, taking care of the parents and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
again, his heart is right to, to
Mhm.
marry her and know that she's taking care of her parents. And he's bringing, 2 kids along too as well. But taking care of parents is a challenge. So him willing to do that means a lot.
Mhm.
And there's going to have to be a lot of compassion in there, involved in all that, a lot of communication, because again, talk about different scenarios that can possibly come up because, again, somebody may need to go to the hospital, somebody's sick, and they go to a nursing home. All these different scenarios can come up. So be very mindful of all that.
I just want to say I love your sister and how she supports you. She gave you a smiley face.
Thank you,
Like,
sis. She's a wonderful.
Right, you can tell she's the big sister. She just followed it up with a smiley face. Okay, so you know me, I'm still going in hard. What's your recommendation to protect your assets until you are sure the marriage is successful? And you had no idea I was going to ask that.
No, I did not. So again, I go back to I would not again put those funds together.
Uh-huh.
I would leave those funds separate. You can still have a good marriage and have your funds separated. Just for protection reasons. I mean, at this age, you have to realize, Chris, at this age, you're not building anything any longer.
Okay.
You're building when you're in your 20s and 30s. You're not building one thing at all. You're just coming together. So there's no building at this point. It's now looking towards retirement. It's not start looking at your Social Security and all those things and how am I going to retire now? When you were younger, you were looking at those things. You're at a different plateau in life. You're basically, and I like to use the analogy as, you're starting at one all over again, but it's a different level of one. Not every 10. We're talking about maybe 21 or 31, but we're starting at one again, all over again. So again, you need to pay attention. We're starting, but it's at a different level. And so at 20, 20 years old, you're building things together. It's one-on-one, it makes two. But now at 45, 50, and 60 years old, life is a little different now. We're going to look at some things. We're not building some things together. There are going to be some things that are going to be separate. And you
what
need
about insurance? Because he's 58, she's 60. What about the insurance situation? What about basically she's taking care of her parents, but what about their care? Because she's only 2 years younger than him.
Correct. Again, long-term care. We talked about that before. They both should have some type of long-term care because, as you can see, she's taking care of her parents. So already.
How does she protect her assets, though?
Well, again, so I'm not sure about far as putting those into his name.
Right.
That's a real tough question. That's a real tough one there. You may want to ask you guys, tomorrow on that.
So did I go in hard on you? Did I just go in
that was going a little hard, and I need to probably dig a little deeper into that one because again, she's not, she doesn't have any kids, right?
No.
And she's just taking care of her parents, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing. So who does she leave it to?
And that's the question because he has 2 adult kids and 1 grandchild.
Right.
So
all this leaving to stuff, you know what I mean? I hear all this leaving to, and again, you need to handle your responsibilities, So again, he should be taking care of his responsibilities at that age. He should have taken care of a lot of his responsibilities already. She's just a bonus. Anything she does should be a bonus.
I was waiting for you to say that. That's what I was waiting for you to say.
She should come into it as a bonus, not as primary, So again, whatever she does is an additional to him. He shouldn't be saying, well, honey, put these funds into my account or do whatever. No, if she chooses to do that, then that's wonderful. If she doesn't, that's okay.
Right.
Well, so be very mindful of that kind of thing as right away, throwing your money into, his account or her account and things like that. Again, as I was saying earlier, you're not building any longer. You're trying to set up for your retirement so you both can retire comfortably, so be very mindful of that. Hopefully I kind of answered your question.
You did. You answered all the questions. And believe it or not, you made it through all the scenarios. I think it was a great job because, folks, this is just real life. This is where you're at once you reach the age of 45 to, 65. Everybody has stuff. Everybody has history. You got family. And it's a lot more to a relationship. So, Gerald, as always, I'm going to let you close out your own show. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to ask you real life scenarios and for you to apply what you feel at your age with your experience in relationships, as well as being 60, as well as being in the banking industry for over 30 years, your advice on how people should handle things. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think a lot of people understand it's a bigger picture. It's a bigger picture than just saying I love you when you start coming together at a certain age. So I just want to thank you for that. This has been really and just let you know, I'm understanding a little bit more. Normally I date people, they don't have children, but at my age, if I do meet someone who does have children, that's, I love kids. So that's not going to throw me out the door, but I do understand at the same time, I'm the kind of person, I'm probably going to spread it equally. And I'm that kind of person,
Yeah.
especially if I start off with their kids and their kids are young right now.
Right.
I would just spread it like all the kids get equals.
Yeah, but at your age, chances are the kids are going to be young. Young is probably going to be middle school, maybe. Maybe middle school, but chances are going to be in high school.
Yeah. And I mean, with my kid being in college,
Correct.
he's got enough insurance policies he's taken
Right.
care of. So whatever I have, I'll split it.
And what relationship is he going to have with him?
Right. And that's the thing too. That's like a major conversation. The other thing is too, we didn't get into, and I'll ask you this on your next finance day, is that me being an entrepreneur owning 3 separate businesses. That's a big conversation. When you're with somebody, folks, there's a lot of conversations you should be having because
LLC,
it does
right?
make a difference.
Your LLC, so you protect personally. So that's like another conversation. You want to do your LLC things.
Because I know you have a business. You work for a company, but you also have your own business, and that makes a difference. You have grandchildren, you have a child, so it makes a difference when you're having these conversations, folks. So again, you could love somebody. We're not saying don't love nobody. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying that you just got to pay attention to all the other entities that fall into that. Because I'm going to tell you, if I do decide to get married, I'm kind of like, let's just do it. Whatever I got is yours. At this point, I'm in. Like I don't have a lot of time to be negotiating. And
that's exactly where I am. Donna, you have it all.
I'm in.
That's she has it all. Simple.
And so I just want to say, you may not meet a Gerald and Christine. Be prepared. We're just like even temper. Whoever we gonna be with, boom, I'm in.
All right. Exactly right.
I'm in because to me the relationship is more important to me than the money.
Absolutely correct.
So and that's, you just need to look at that. And I want to make sure I do protect my kid, but he's got enough insurance policies that, he'll be a millionaire. I used to say that to him all the time. Don't try to knock me off. You know what? Look at Donna doing a shout out. I love you, babe. You know what, Donna? You just should have came on in and been on the link. Hey, Donna. So, folks, that's what you need to be thinking about. And I mean, like you said, it's just a major conversation. And the other thing is too, and we didn't want to leave this out. A lot of people do get married at 45 to 65 and it doesn't last.
Right.
And then you put your names on everything, you split it, and it's a lot of stuff.
And that goes back to the loneliness. And if you remember me talking about that initially, just make sure that you remember that past relationship and it's not a rebound. Because that's what it is because somebody's smiling in your face because the past person dogged you out so bad and told you, how terrible you are and ugly and gain weight and nobody's going to want you and, downed you so much. And all of a sudden someone gives you some attention and you just fall right into that. So that's actually what happens.
And you talked about that uneven thing too, because people are established. And if you're with somebody who doesn't have anything, that's another conversation.
Sure it is.
Like, you looking like a fat check.
Yeah, you look like a fat check, right? Are they going into it for the right reasons? Very important.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, look, Christine's not giving advice. He's the expert. Drew, let me let you close out your show because you could be here all night. But just know I'm excited about next week. When you come on, we're talking about health, and I love those days. Those are like hot. So I'm really excited about next week. So, I'm hoping and crossing my fingers that if we making something or whatever you're doing, I don't know what you're doing.
Make some little salmon. I might do a little salmon thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see if we can get you a guest on. I might get you a little guest on next week. Besides me, because I'm always your guest. And I love being your guest, by the way. All right, so listen, Gerald, as always, has been a pleasure. I love having you here on the 5S to Love Network. Donna, you are my associate producer in Delaware. So shout out to Donna again. And thanks a lot, Gerald, for coming on. You go ahead and close out your show, and I'll see you next Friday on 60 is the New 40.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for supporting my podcast. It's been exciting times, doing these podcasts, and appreciate you listening to my experiences. Hopefully they're helpful to you. And I appreciate the feedback that I've received, in reference to all the podcasts. Feel free to reach out to me anytime you have any questions or anything. I'm an open book. I don't mind helping. That's just part of my ministry. I love helping and love help someone get to the next level, as far as life or finance is concerned. Not that I've done everything perfect. I made enough mistakes and I made some, and I've done some good things too as well. And hopefully I can help you with that. So again, I appreciate you, watching the podcast today, and hopefully it was helpful to you. And I look forward to the next one. God bless and have a good evening.